welcome to Ultra Human. My name is Rachel and I am here to help you be the best human you can be on planet Earth. And I really hope everybody's feeling cozy. It is October 1st, which means that even though fall started a little while ago, who cares? It's official! Halloween is coming! I get really excited for this time of year. But what I don't get excited for is the middle of winter. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today is seasonal affective disorder. So I have experienced for several years now some version of seasonal depression, and it took me a couple years before I even really recognized what's going on. Seasonal depression doesn't typically set in until sometime in your mid-20s. And so you may have never experienced anything like this up until, you're 25, 28 years old. And then suddenly it just kind of hits you like a freight train one November and you can't take it. Especially if you move from a more southern region to a northern region, or just closer to the equator to farther away from the equator, I guess. So this is going to be the first episode in a series of episodes where I'm going to talk about the factors that we can influence that help with seasonal depression. And those are exercise, diet, socialization, and in this episode we're going to be talking about various kinds of light therapy. So really quick, first, I guess I want to go over what is seasonal depression. So first of all, there's actually two kinds of seasonal depression. There's summer and winter. So I will be doing a summer seasonal depression video closer to springtime, because that's actually a very serious disorder. It affects a lot less people than winter depression. However, it's actually considered the active version, so you're more likely to get in big blow-up arguments or in fights, possibly even be suicidal if you are suffering from summer depression, because you're getting sort of agitated by the increase of light rather than the reverse. So seasonal depression is a full-blown major depressive episode that just happens to only happen during a certain part of the year. So typically it's from November to February is when the shortened days really start to catch up with people and things are really at their worst. So one of the hallmarks of seasonal depression, there's kind of this vicious cycle because you sleep more. Your body actually feels heavy and possibly even sore. I was waking up with aches and pains. And you also crave sweets, specifically. And it seems kind of funny that the two major holidays, actually the three major holidays that involve eating a lot of sweets, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, all sort of coincide with this time of year when it's really not in our better interest, but physiologically we're just driven to want carbs. So I will be talking about that in the future video about diet. But obviously you can kind of see how all of these things feed into each other and just cause this vicious cycle that would cause us to become more and more depressed as the season goes on. So I would even say that you probably start experiencing these symptoms closer to the equinox time, and then it's not until November that they've kind of compounded themselves enough to be something that you would notice and seek help for. And that's another thing. I don't want to go further in this video before I say, if you are experiencing a major depressive episode, please take responsibility for your mental health and go get help. There's all kinds of help available. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take medication or anything like that, but please, if you feel like you're experiencing some of these things to a severe degree, go get help. I am doing that for myself this winter because it really took me this long to be maybe I can't handle all this on my own. Maybe I can't YouTube my way out of these problems. And I certainly hope I can help. But if this is a severe thing for you, you might need to go get professional help. So the things I'm going to talk about with light therapy today, we're going to talk about being outside, light boxes, and dawn simulation. So seems like the most obvious thing, and it also seems like maybe the hardest thing to do, is just being outside. There are studies that show that people who live in the far north, if they have a job that requires them to be outside all the time. Now, obviously, we're talking about like Canada, like southern Canada, not necessarily like if there's no light outside, like this might not help you. So sorry if you're in like northern Alaska or anything like that, this might not apply to you. But yeah, if you can manage to put yourself outside for significant chunks of the daylight hours of the day, you will probably be fine. So if you are cold intolerant, I'm actually going to do a video about that because I have experienced that myself and it can kind of be hell. So I will be having future videos about how to better tolerate the cold. If I've done those already, I'll put a link somewhere. But the next thing that we can do is something that can be done inside, and that is a light box. So these are very fashionable because I feel like more people are becoming aware of seasonal depression and that it's a problem. We also have a more global community, so people are moving around in new places that they're not so familiar with. And I feel like you probably have a lot of people going into like northern regions that are used to southern climates, closer to the equator, and then they suddenly are experiencing seasonal depression. So it's becoming a lot more common for people to need these things. And light boxes, however, I feel like because they're becoming more trendy, there's kind of a lot of misinformation about them out there. And there's a few things that are very important to keep in mind getting yourself a light box. First of all, you want something that has a very broad light spectrum, but not necessarily outside the range of visible light. What I'm saying is you need a nice, even distribution of visible light. It's not better to have this big peak of blue light, which some of these light boxes will actually market themselves like, hey, we help with blue light deprivation or something. The idea is that because you get this blue light in the middle of the day, typically during the summertime, that having more blue light will help you somehow in the wintertime. Now, anecdotally, people say that they do feel a lot better. I think that this is more linked to the brightness of the light that they're around. But as far as the actual research and science goes on this, the only thing I could find out about having more blue light is that it causes macular degeneration. And you don't want that. So let's protect our eyes and focus on finding something that just gives you a nice, very bright, wide cone of the full spectrum of visible light. You don't really need infrared or ultraviolet light, which is typically when they say full spectrum, it does kind of mean that they're giving you like a little bit to the outside of the visible light spectrum. That doesn't necessarily help you with seasonal depression, and really being around too much of the wrong kind of UV radiation can possibly cause skin cancer, so let's maybe, avoid that. A lot of these lights actually have a filter on them to block that UV radiation. So they say that they're full spectrum, but then they put a filter on it that actually blocks part of the spectrum that the light emits. Go figure. So I'm going to be doing legwork to make sure that I can find some light boxes for you guys that are not only that they're going to emit the right spectrum of light, but I'd like to find some that are in different price ranges. Probably like the cheaper they are, usually the smaller they are, but the bigger they are, the more effective they are. So these things go all the way from like big screen TV sized, like $300 light boxes, all the way down to like, I've seen them for like 15 or 20 bucks, like these little tiny pocket lights. Now, the littler the light, the more I'm worried about the blue spectrum, because LEDs typically spike in that blue light spectrum. So I'm going to be trying to find things like in the under $40, $50 range that I can help you guys out with. Also that have money back guarantees, because this does not work for everyone. You might have a seasonal depression and you might find that light therapy doesn't work for you. I think I heard that the percentage is something like the same amount of people who are helped with their regular depression that are helped by medication, it's like the same percent of people who are helped by light therapy. So it's not everyone. It's definitely not everyone. But I myself have just experienced that being around these light boxes tends to make me feel more awake and alert. So you might just enjoy it once you have it, even if it's not necessarily helping your condition. But I want to make sure that you have the option to back out of it, because it is a significant financial investment for some people, especially if you want to go with the bigger light boxes. So the next one that I think is pretty cool that I've actually been doing for a while is called dawn simulation. So one of the things that we lose is the morning light coming up when the winter really sets in. I know here in the Pacific Northwest, if it's a cloudy, overcast day and it's the middle of the winter, you might not have enough light to function by until like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Usually I just get up and I open my windows for most of the year, and that's plenty of light for me to do what I need to do. But that might not be the case if you're trying to wake up for work and it's, December. So there's a few ways that you can do this. There are things called dawn boxes, which I'll put a link for in the description, that are kind of just like commercially available light therapy boxes that turn on very slowly. So over the course of a couple hours, they'll go from being very dim and usually like red light, and then they'll brighten all the way up until they are like a full white light. And some of these are actually like combo boxes, or they're supposed to be where you're getting like your light therapy from it during the day, and then it also kind of works like an alarm clock. I don't know if you can get them where they like do the whole day-night cycle. That'd be kind of cool if it was just like, and it started turning off at a certain time to remind you should be going to bed. But so those are the commercially available version. I have been doing kind of a modified version of this where, like, in my room, when I first wake up in the morning, I have night lights. So I will like flick on a night light on the wall, and then what I would usually do is go straight to grabbing these guys. And these are my blue light blocking glasses. I don't know if I've actually talked to you about these before. There's a lot of research out there about how blue light is bad for us in the evening. But I would say that what these the evidence that shows that dawn therapy helps people suggests to me that like first thing in the morning, flicking on like the bright light and being like, is not better either. So I like to use these first thing in the morning, and they're right there because I had them on the night before, and then just like slowly dimming up the lights or using like some candles and nightlight things. So those are my 3 suggestions as far as light therapy goes. And like I said, I will have links in the description here for everything. So using light therapy boxes, getting outside, dawn simulation, that's what I have for you today. And in the meantime, you get out there and be your best human. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you all soon with more videos.